Okay, Tuesday, 29th of April, 2025. So Adrian's daily vlog, sharing smart stuff men should know. Bitcoin is a hedge against entropy, as everything goes to zero against it and breaks down. Some would even go as far as to say that Bitcoin is thermodynamically sound money. A few interesting buzzwords there. Now, Bitcoin is a hedge against entropy because fundamentally, Bitcoin is maths, physics, and computer science, code. The number 7 doesn't rot, doesn't decay. Gravity can't be turned off. Code, computer science, will always run as it is told and as it's executed. These things don't decay by definition. Gravity doesn't turn off here and there. Numbers don't change and can be crushed and reformed or manipulated. Code is maths. Code does exactly what it does. It's binary, computers, computer science. Fundamentally, Bitcoin is these things. And because of these things, it bends reality, our human behavior, to it. So it's a hedge against inflation, in a low-level way of looking at it, because of its fixed supply, but because of its first principles and going beyond, it's a hedge against entropy. Everything else breaks and deteriorates, but these things, these mathematical truths, stay the same. Just how society can come and go, but numbers, gravity, code stays the same in the exact same way. And then because of that, everything goes to zero against it. It's absolute scarcity, 21 million. We know exactly. And because of that, we can see in the charts of many different things, the price of many things have gone or are going to zero. Argentine peso, Polish zloty, euro, dollar, pound, food, the Big Mac indicator, Dow Jones Industrial, oil production, wheat, you name it. Every single chart, when priced in Bitcoin, goes to zero. Meaning, over time, one Bitcoin buys you more and more things. That makes sense. Because as the price of Bitcoin goes up, £1, £10, £100, £1,000, £100,000. And yet, for example, a book or a phone or a device or a car would have whatever price tag, and that price would change over time, go up because of inflation. If the price of Bitcoin is £1, let's say, and this book is £1, then it'll take £1 to buy this. But if the price of Bitcoin suddenly goes to £2, then it'll take half a Bitcoin to buy this. So then price of Bitcoin goes to 100. I can buy 100 of these with one Bitcoin. Interesting. And we're seeing that happen in many, many charts. Some currencies, like the Russian ruble and Indian rupee, have effectively gone to zero, meaning the smallest unit of that currency cannot buy one Satoshi, the smallest unit of Bitcoin. And we see this in charts everywhere. Powerful, powerful stuff. So it's a hedge against entropy and inflation. But then we can go one step further and say it's thermodynamically sound money, meaning there's no leaking. You buy a house and you have to pay taxes on that or pay maintenance on it. So over time there's a half-life. Even a half-life of money is the rule of 72, really. Something akin to 72 divided by the interest, or in this case the inflation rate. So I saw something earlier, 3% interest. A 3% interest in 23 years, you've lost half of your wealth. That's one generation, 22 years, but 23 years in this case, the maths. In one generation, that same amount of money, £100, let's say, can buy you 50% fewer things 20 or so years, 22, 23 years later. But in the same period of time, today, 22 years in the future, what could the price of Bitcoin be in 22 years? That's a whole other calculation. In trading, I remember I was taught an important little mantra: the trend is your friend. And we see this trend on many charts. The price of things collapses in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin goes only one way, up into the where into the up. The trend is your friend. especially when you zoom out. When in doubt, zoom out. The further you zoom out, the trend, that path of direction becomes increasingly, blindingly, sublimely clear. That's powerful. That's the market telling you something. It's signal. It's not noise, it's signal. It's consistent. So it's thermodynamically sound because there's no leaking. It is. Again, 7 doesn't change over the decades and centuries. Gravity doesn't change over the centuries and decades. Computer science will not change into the decades and centuries ahead. Especially as with the halvening over the next 4 and 8, well, every 4 years really, but over the next 8 years, 2 more halvening cycles, the emission rate, the inflation rate of Bitcoin will effectively go to 0. Meaning, every year, the new issuance of Bitcoin will be a lot less than today. 10x smaller than today. That's in percentage terms. I know it's already smaller than gold. That's powerful, meaning it's scarcer. And because, again, rule of 72, but if it's getting cut in half over time, it means that your purchasing power never actually gets cut in half because it effectively goes to 0. In about 10 years, the emission rate will hit, 99% of all Bitcoin will be mined, and the emission rate every year will go to 0. Meaning, no more will be created. So it can't leak, meaning there's no half-life on it. It means it's in perpetuity. Why? Because the dynamics, the first principles behind it, again, the maths, science, and code. Bitcoin is fundamentally mathematics, physics, and code. And we can go one step further as well. So that's the issuance rate, the ecosystem. But also Bitcoin itself. There's no cost of storage. House, you have to pay taxes on it and maintenance, so you're leaking money, you're leaking time and energy to maintain Red Queen syndrome, just to maintain things at the same level. But because there is no fees, management fees, execution fees, whatever else, or what's the word now? Custody fees with Bitcoin in a cold wallet. That's it. There's no fee by definition, 0%. If there's 0% fee, you're not paying anyone to hold this wealth here or there. That's powerful. There's no fees. That's in stark contrast to every other asset there is out there. Custodial fees, for example. So it's thermodynamically sound, meaning, especially as the code stays the same, meaning that the Bitcoin today is the same as it was 15 years ago, and it will be into the future. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. It doesn't change. Over time, there'll be less and less inflation in the network. Bitcoin will be rarer and rarer. And as the positive feedback loop of awareness and demand and infrastructure increases, the demand and the things built on top of Bitcoin natively will increase over time, over the next 15 years. What's that going to do to the mining network and the hash rate and the amount of users and the price? That's a whole other conversation. But Bitcoin is a hedge against entropy, and everything else goes to 0 against it. It is thermodynamically sound money. That's beautiful. Again, Bitcoin is fundamentally maths, physics, and computer science. Powerful stuff. But otherwise, Adrian's daily vlog, sharing smart stuff men should know. Subscribe for more, and you will see me tomorrow.